Happy Sunday morning. It's me and I thought we'd film it in a slightly different way. So it's me. Hello.
Hello.
And it's Molly. Hello. This is Kevin. Kevin in between us, kind of like here. Because we only got one story today, but it's a bit of a long one, a bit of a bumper story. It's a lovely book called Where Snow Angels Go, and I figured that Molly, there's not that many. There's kind of there are pictures in it. You can see there's some nice pictures, but there's quite a few pages without any pictures at all. And poor Molly's arms are going to get worn out because it is quite a longish story. I reckon we're probably in for about 25 minutes on this one. So this is possibly one of those stories my niece Hannah likes a story to go to bed to, so when she can't sleep. So this might be one of those ones, Hannah. Do a little name check there. So Molly's going to do a little bit of drawing while we kind of like do that, and occasionally, if it works, she'll kind of lift it up and we'll do some of the pictures. If it's a particularly nice picture, I'll say, and then we can take a good picture. And Molly is going to, well, I don't know what you're going to draw during it. You've got your hot chocolate. You've got your hot chocolate and your biscuit there. I've got my hot chocolate. Yeah, with your that's a rather delicious looking cookie. Yeah, no, it's quite a big one. And we got kind of paper, and we got crayons, and we got a gingerbread card. So you can please yourself what you want to draw. But should we carry on with the story? So this is by a lady called Maggie O'Farrell. That sounds very Irish. Maggie O'Farrell. I can't do an Irish accent. Where Snow Angels Go. It's a beautiful looking book, this one. I think this is new this year. So, have you ever woken suddenly in the middle of the night without knowing why? Once, and not long ago, this happened to a girl. Her eyes sprang open without warning, and she looked around her. The walls of her room were pulsing with a strange glimmering light. The curtains were moving ever so slightly, as if something or someone had recently passed through them. And was it the girl's imagination, or was the room colder than normal? Could that be a line of frost along the mantelpiece, across the bookshelf? Then the girl, whose name was Sylvie, saw something that made the blood freeze in her veins, made her heart leap like a fish in her chest. There could be no mistake. Someone was tiptoeing across the floor. His outline shimmered with a moonlight glow, his skin a strange blue-white. Most incredible by far was what extended from his back, a pair of wings, enormous in size and made of the softest snow-white feathers imaginable. He was picking his way through a room, muttering to himself, wings wafting behind him. First, save the person, Sylvie could hear him say. Then fly down. No, that's not right. No, hang on. First, fly down. Second, find the person. Third... He shook his head, muddled, shutting his eyes as if for inspiration. Now what comes third? I've forgotten, and I really... Sylvie drew in a breath. She let it out. She drew in another and said in a hoarse voice, "Excuse me." The visitor whipped round, letting out a shriek as if he'd accidentally trodden on something sharp. "Heavens," he said, clutching at his chest. "You scared me. I was just..." He stopped and took a sideways step closer to the end of her bed. There was a short pause, and he stared at her with frightened eyes. "You can see me?" he whispered, incredulous. Sylvie nodded, looking up at him, holding the covers very tightly. The visitor seemed utterly confused. He opened his mouth as if he might speak, and then he shut it again. He waved a hand up and down in front of his face, watching it so closely he looked cross-eyed for a moment. "Are you sure? I mean, I can see me. Can you?" Sylvie laughed. She couldn't help herself. "Of course I can. I'm talking to you, aren't I?" He let his hands fall to his sides. "Oh dear," he said, in the saddest voice Sylvie had ever heard, his head hanging down dejectedly. "Oh no." There's the snow angel and the little girl, Sylvie. "Oh no, I must have made a mistake. I'm going to be in so much trouble. This is my first flight, you see, and I did want it to go well. I've no idea what I did wrong." "I'm sure you didn't do anything wrong," Sylvie said kindly. He did seem very upset. "But you're not supposed to be able to see me," he cried in despair. And here you are. He gestured at her. Seeing me, I tried so hard. I thought I'd done everything right, but... He paused to let out an enormous misty sigh. This isn't how it's meant to go. How is it meant to go? Sylvie said. Well, he said, lowering himself to the chair at Sylvie's desk. I fly down to find you and I'm invisible. Entirely invisible. While I save you and then... Save me? Sylvie said. From what? And then she uttered the question she'd been wanting to ask all along. Who are you? He looked at the desk for a moment. He looked at the window. He looked at the row of wooden animals along the sill. He looked all around the room and then back at Sylvie. I'm probably not even supposed to tell you, and, he said, it's a long story. He got up off Sylvie's chair and stretched. It was an astonishing sight. Sylvie had been told never to stare at people, but she couldn't help herself. His limbs were silvery blue, and his skin under his thin white robe seemed lit from within. His hair was sculpted curls of ice, and when he moved, tiny showers of luminous dust came off him, like snow falling from a branch. He took 2 steps towards the bed, and his wings flexed out on either side of him. You see that? I am, he said from the foot of a bed, your snow angel. My what? Sylvie said. Snow angel, he repeated. Snow what? Snow, he said, slowly giving the word 2 syllables. Angel. Are you hard of hearing? Because I am not hard of hearing, Sylvie exclaimed. I've just never heard of a snow angel. Not true, the snow angel said, folding his arms. Sylvie drew herself up as much as possible while lying in bed. It is true, she said. I've never heard of such a thing. And what's more, but you made me, the angel said, his feathers ruffling and twitching. I did not. I can't have, Sylvie stammered. But at the same time, her mind was working, whirring, taking her back. All the way back to last winter, to a day so silent it was as if a blanket had fallen over the world. A blizzard had blown through overnight and covered everything in cold whiteness. Sylvie, in bed, recalled a moment when she was leaning back in the snow, sweeping her arms and legs through its cold powder, back and forth, back and forth. There were flakes on her eyelashes and on her lips, and she was laughing. There we go. So that's a snow angel. Who did a snowman? Very good. And a snow dog. Okay, we'll show the people later on. Sylvie gazed at the angel at the end of her bed. She looked all the way from the icy tip of his wings to his opalescent feet. That's a funny word. Opalescent feet. That was you, she asked. The snow angel inclined his head. That was me. And when the snow melted the following day, you disappeared, Sylvie said. You were gone. Evaporated, the angel corrected, holding up a single finger. Not gone. I went up, molecule by molecule, into the air to gather in the clouds. Once you make an angel in the snow, he said, it is yours forever. We never disappear. We watch over you the whole time and come back whenever you need us. You watch over me? Yes. From a cloud in the sky? The angel tilted his head. More or less. But how? He shrugged. Things made of water or snow or ice are indestructible. If the sun comes out and dries us up, we just reform elsewhere in the atmosphere. You probably learned as much at school. It's simple science. Sylvie giggled. Science? An angel I made last winter reappearing in my room is science. The angel looked affronted. Certainly. Do you doubt it? Sylvie laced her hands together. It's not that I doubt it. I didn't mean to be rude. It just seems a bit more like magic. Magic, the angel said, as if he hated the word. Absolutely not. Do I look magic to you? Sylvie examined his celestial robes, his illuminated outline, his silver blue face, his enormous wings. Yes, she said, you do. The angel sighed and ran a distracted hand through his curls. Look, we're getting sidetracked here, he said, more to himself than to her. I really had no idea that you would be so talkative. All this science and magic stuff is beside the point when the point is, he looked around himself wildly as if trying to remember what he was doing here, in a house in the middle of the night. And then it seemed to come back to him. He lifted his chin, he straightened his robes, he cleared his throat. The point is, of course, that I am on a mission. My first one ever. I'm here, he said in an announcing sort of way, to help you. Sylvie gave a puzzled smile. But I'm fine. I don't need help. I'm at home, in bed. I'm perfectly safe. Let's carry on chatting. Tell me more. What's it like up there in the sky? Why are you taller than the angel I made? Did this simple science make you stretch? What do you do all the time? Are there others like you? Are you all friends? The angel didn't seem to hear these questions. He was chewing his lip, looking at Sylvie very intently. He walked one way around the bend, then the other. He leant in close. He drew back. He leant in again. You're not entirely safe, he said eventually. I'm not. He shook his head. I wouldn't be here if you were. Snow angels, he said with a hint of pride, never make mistakes, at least not about this sort of thing. I think perhaps you're not very well. Really, said Sylvie, I feel fine. You might feel fine, but you're not. He passed his hands through the air above her. Glittering snow dust showered down from him, falling onto her, soft as swan's down. Sylvie lay in her bed and watched as her snow angel stood above her, wings aloft, his face alert and concerned, his hands moving to and fro. Sylvie reached up and took one of them. His fingers were cool and strong as marble. She found she wanted to place them on her forehead, just to feel them there, and so she did. There was a distinct fizzling sound as cold palm met hot brow. Aha, he murmured. I knew it. I knew you weren't well. You have a fever. Sylvie blinked underneath the hand. I'm going to wake up your mother. She'll know what to do. He moved on his silent white feet towards the door. Snow Angel, Sylvie whispered, are you coming back? He smiled for the first time. I never go away, he said. In the morning, you won't remember any of this. That's the way things are with snow angels. You never see us, you never remember us. Or if you do, you'll just think you had a strange dream. But I'll always be here, watching out for you. Sylvie saw him leave, saw him pass through the doorway, saw the bluish, lustrous glow fade. In the other room, Sylvie's mum woke with a start. She lay there for a moment, wondering what might have woken her and why the room was so cold. Then she thought, I'll just go and check on Sylvie. Sylvie was ill for a long time. We're into summer now. There we go. She sat underneath a tree in the garden. Sylvie was ill for a long time. She lay in bed for the whole summer, the entire autumn and most of the winter. She was still in bed, most unfortunately, on Christmas Day. By the time the spring bulbs were pushing their green spears out of the soil, however, she was beginning to feel stronger, and it wasn't long before she could go outside again. The Snow Angel had been wrong about one thing. Sylvie did not forget about his visit. It was burned into her memory as clearly as if it had just happened. She could remember every detail about him, every single word he'd said. She didn't tell anyone about her Snow Angel, not her mother, not her father, not her friends at school, but she thought about him every day. She whispered his name to herself sometimes under her breath, especially when she was alone. She hoped he would visit her again soon. There were many things she wanted to ask him, and she hoped he hadn't got into trouble for talking to her. She wondered if he'd worked out how to make himself invisible. Surely he would come to see her now that she was better. They'd so much to talk about. She would tell him about what it had been like to be so ill for so long, about the people she'd met in hospital, how the doctor had said it had been a very good luck that her mother had woken up that night, and she imagined that they would laugh together about that. Luck, he might say. It was simple science. She filled the margins of her school books with pictures of clouds, snowflakes, huge pairs of white wings, and she waited for him to visit again. She waited and watched and waited some more, but the Snow Angel didn't come. One day, Sylvie was at school. She was supposed to be listening to the teacher, who was telling them a story about their town in the olden days, but she was, in fact, sketching a line of clouds across the top of her book. If the Snow Angel watched her all of the time, she thought to herself, then he was watching her now. He could see her at this very moment sitting in class. He was watching her draw a figure with wings and a robe, standing on top of a cloud, gazing down to earth. And if, she thought, something dangerous were to happen to her, a hungry monster bursting in through the classroom door, for example, or a sudden flood lifting their tables and chairs from the ground, then he would have to come down. Sylvie chewed the end of her pencil, struck by this idea. She was just about to rub out the figure and draw him, taking to the air, wings extended, when out of the blue, the teacher asked her a question. Sylvie had to banish all thoughts of angels and clouds, put down her pencil and pretend that she'd been listening all along. After school, Sylvie decided to push things just a little to see if she could make her snow angel appear. She wanted to see him and she had a feeling he would want to see her. It was probably quite dull to be up there in the sky all the time, day after day, just looking down. Wasn't it the kindest thing, really, to give him something to do? So on the way home, she looked for the tallest tree in the park. She climbed it and climbed it and climbed it, and when she reached the top, she shunted herself down to the end of a long branch. She couldn't look down, couldn't bear to see the faraway grass, the distant swings, the tiny people walking along the path. She shut her eyes, gripped the branch tight, and made herself bounce up and down. "Look at me," she wanted to call. "I might fall, I really might." Nothing happened. She just felt a bit sick, and after a while, she climbed down again and went home. The next day, she made herself hang upside down by one leg from a tyre swing and swayed back and forth, and she took to walking about the house with her eyes shut and arms outstretched, bumping into things. She even tobogganed down the stairs on a tea tray. She went right up to the biggest boy at school and told him he was a bully and that he should stop tripping people up. The boy was so astonished that Sylvie was able to run away before he tried to catch her. Nothing worked. The snow angel never came. Sylvie thought that maybe he'd forgotten about her, or had she dreamt him after all? Then, right at the end of the summer, Sylvie was swimming at the seaside when a wave went over her head. She found herself suddenly out of her depth under the water, and she didn't know which way was up, and she couldn't touch the bottom with her feet, and the shore seemed very distant indeed. She couldn't open her mouth to call for help because she didn't want to swallow seawater, and she knew her parents were too far away to hear. She was gripped by a terrible panic. Who would save her? All she could see were water and bubbles and confusing splinters of light. She seemed to be still moving out to sea, and she was thinking that she might never reach the air again, that her time was up, when she felt another wave take hold of her. I'm going to have a little sip of drink. How are you doing? So we've drawn, do you want to, let's do this one. So, what have we got? What have we got here? We got Snowman and Snow Dog. And who are these people
Elf,
down here?
Santa and Rudolph.
Elf, Santa, that's Elf, yeah. Doing it back to front. Elf, Santa and Rudolph. Rudolph's very tiny, or is he a lot further behind?
He's a lot further behind.
Because that's a very tiny reindeer. Very good. Love your snowman. Love your snowman. Right, I'm going to have a little sip of drink. We got Kevin the Carrot mug again today. See, we're going to have one. Yeah, see, that's I can't remember, what were they called? Great grandma,
great granddad.
Great grandma and great granddad. That's your great mum, grandma and great granddad. Yeah. Right.
I don't think we'll need to have any more cuddly toys because.
Well, they're not going to fit in here, are they? Well, I think.
Yeah, and because you bought so many, I've got this carrot. In my room, I've got this shelf thing with all cuddlies in it.
We've got all the little ones.
I've got a section where it's only the carrots, and you can barely see the ones behind.
I've got the hedgehog this week. You've seen the hedgehog, haven't you? Yeah, that's from the advert too. So next weekend is our last weekend, isn't it? So they'll all have to come down. All the carrot family, don't it?
There even is a pilot.
Right, so Sylvie's stuck in the sea. This wave was different. It was strong. It was decisive. It snatched her from the clutches of the current and pulled her back the other way towards the shore. Sylvie felt her hair swirling about her as she was carried along. She saw the surface of the sea coming down to meet her. Suddenly her head broke up out of the water and she could take in gulps of air. There she was, back on the beach in the shallows, sitting upright, coughing and spluttering. She hadn't been swept out. She hadn't been lost at sea. The day was still sunny and people were still building sandcastles on the shore, and the ice cream van was still playing its tune. Her mother and father and the dog were running down the beach, worried looks on their faces, and they were getting themselves tangled up in the dog's lead, because they were all determined to be the first to reach her. Sylvie's mother wrapped her in a towel and gave her a hot drink. and the dog helped climb onto her knee for a nap. Sylvie sat on the beach and thought about that second wave. There was something special about it, something different. It had been much colder than all the others, and was it her imagination, had she felt the soft brushing sensation of feathers as it propelled her towards land? Not long after this, Sylvie was riding her bike down a steep hill when she realised she couldn't slow down. Here we are. Can we see her going down the hill and going, oh? When she realised she couldn't slow down, the brakes didn't seem to be working and her bike wheels were whirring and she was heading for the train tracks at the bottom of the hill. The word help stretched out from her mouth as if on elastic, and suddenly there was a big gust of wind. It pushed Sylvie sideways, tipping her off her speeding bike and into a pile of leaves head first. Sylvie watched as her bike carried on down the hill all on its own. She was quiet as she pushed her mangled bike home. She was thoughtful at tea time, and she barely said a word during her bath. Later that night, she got out of bed, pulled back her curtains and peered upwards. The sky was like a black cloth, strewn with fragments of diamond. She pressed her warm fingertips to the cool glass and watched as condensation, minuscule droplets of water, spread out around them. She saw the steam of her breath appear and disappear as her chest rose and fell. She knew now that the Snow Angel was there, with her, watching her, the whole time, just as he'd promised. She hadn't forgotten him, and she knew that she never would. She couldn't summon him by doing dangerous things. It didn't work like that. He only came when she really needed him, when she was looking the other way. "Thank you," she whispered, sending her words up towards the sky, but there was no reply. But Sylvie was sure, absolutely sure, that just for a moment there was another reflection in the window alongside her own, a tall one, with great white wings, and he was shedding silver dust as he nodded at her. When winter came round again, something occurred to Sylvie. "Have you ever made a snow angel?" Sylvie asked her mother. "A what?" her mother said. Sylvie frowned and walked away. She went to everyone else she knew and asked them the same question. "I'm on the phone, sweetheart," said her father. "Can we talk about this another time?" "Pardon?" said her grandmother. "A snow angel, did you say?" "No, I don't know, darling. Ask your mother," said her grandfather. "Special deal on satsumas today," said the man at the fruit stall. "I've made a snowman," said her friend at school. "Does that count?" Sylvie didn't think it did. She began to lie awake at night, wondering what might happen to all the people who didn't have a snow angel up there looking after them, like she did. Who would save them if they were ever in danger? "I don't want anything bad to happen to you," she told her mother as they walked to school. Her mother took her hand. "Nothing bad is going to happen," she said. "You don't know that," said Sylvie. Her mother looked at her more closely. "Well, that's true, but you mustn't worry. You'll have to make yourself a snow angel," said Sylvie. "Will you do that? Do you promise?" Her mother laughed and ruffled her hair. "You can't make a snow angel without snow." That night, Sylvie stayed awake until she heard the town clock strike 12. Then she tiptoed downstairs, through the kitchen, and out into the garden. There was a lacework of frost on the ground, and the moon was a polished coin in the sky. She stood in the middle of the lawn and tipped back her head. "I need your help," she called out. "Are you there?" A rustle, a murmur as a breeze passed through the trees. "Where are you?" she called. "I know you can hear me." The garden was silent. Fast-moving clouds scrolled by over her head. "I haven't forgotten you," she shouted. "You told me I would, but I didn't. I know it was you, that time on the beach and on my bike. I won't tell anyone, I promise. Can't you come down just this once? I know you shouldn't break the rules, but I need you. I really do." Somewhere a bird called out into the night, then fell silent. The breeze lifted her hair, first one way, then the other. "Please," she whispered, closing her eyes. "Please." There was a blast of chill air, a clatter, and a great clap like thunder. And there he was, crouching on the icy grass, his robes pulled round him, his wing feathers fluttering in the air. "Here I am," he said, straightening up, brushing down his robes, darting quick looks around the garden. "Now, I'm going to have to ask you to keep the noise down. You really do have a very clear speaking voice. Hasn't anyone ever told you?" "Snow Angel," she cried, and she ran towards him, throwing her arms around him, even though he was freezing and not the sort of person who liked hugs. The Snow Angel gave a yelp of surprise. Then, after a moment, He patted her with his cold, cold hands. There, he said. All's well. I told you I'd come if you needed me, didn't I? She wouldn't let go, telling him how grateful she was to him for saving her from the wave, for pushing her bicycle off the path. Don't mention it, really, just doing my job, he said, easing her arms off him. Nice of you to say it, and all that, but there's no need to fuss. You must let me go. You might melt me. Instantly, Sylvie withdrew and stood apart from him, looking up at his pale, chiselled face. He gazed back at her, a frown puckering his brow. What is all this? How come you're out here on your own in the dark? It's freezing, and you should be in bed, not gallivanting about in the middle of the night. The Snow Angel placed a hand on her brow and peered into her eyes like a doctor. What's wrong? Are you in some sort of danger that I can't see? Do you have a pain anywhere? No, I'm fine, Sylvie said. Fine? He asked, raising one icy eyebrow. Do you mean fine like the time you were ill, or fine like you were at the top of the tree? I really am all right this time, she said. I promise you, I'm just worried. There's something I can't stop thinking about, and I need to ask you a favour, a sort of wish. A wish, he repeated in an offended tone. Do I look like a genie from a bottle? You can't summon me for a wish. That's not how this works. You're going to get me into trouble again. A Snow Angel is more of a... I'm sorry, Sylvie cried. I didn't mean to get you into trouble. I really wanted to see you again, and... Shh, the angel said with a hasty glance at the sky. You need to lower your voice. We're not supposed to talk to each other. You know that. Sorry, she whispered. It's quite a big favour. I don't know if you can do it, but there's nobody else I can ask. There they are, talking on the wall. Very pretty pictures, these. The Snow Angel sighed. He walked over to the low wall of the rockery and sat down. You know, he said, other Snow Angels visit their makers only once in a while. They drift down, do a short task, save them from harm, and back they go. Swift, to the point, no one any the wiser. But you, from the very start, you were different. He gazed at her narrowly. I really don't know why. Not only do you see me and speak to me and remember me, but you seem to get yourself into more scrapes than seemed possible. Why did I have to be made by someone who would keep me so busy? Sylvie went over to him. I'm sorry, she said again, taking his hand. I don't mean to get you into scrapes. I just miss you when you're not here. But I'm always here, he said. Sylvie shifted her weight from one foot to another. She thought that if she could just keep hold of his cold, snowy palm like this, he might remain with her forever. I have to go soon, the angel said, as if he read her thoughts. Do you? You know I do. He peered quickly up at the sky before leaning forwards a little. Shall I tell you something? He said in a whisper. What? She whispered back. Is it a secret? Yes. He stole another glance upwards. Sometimes, he hesitated, sometimes I'm glad you didn't forget me. Sylvie clutched his icy fingers very tightly and closed her eyes. Me too, she managed to say. They remained like that for a moment, the angel sitting on the rockery wall with Sylvie before him, the garden around him glinting with frost. Time to go, he said eventually. You'd better tell me your wish. Really? Sylvie's eyes sprang open. You mean it? I can't promise anything, but tell me anyway. Sure? Yes, go on. You might as well now I'm here. Sylvie rested her hand lightly on his shoulder and whispered her wish into his ear. When she'd finished, the Snow Angel turned his head towards her. His face was doubtful, his brow furrowed. I don't know about that, he said. It's never been done before. No one else has ever asked for that. Sylvie folded her hands together. I know you can do it. We'll see, he said. I'll have to ask around. The next morning, Sylvie knew before she pulled back the curtains. She recognised that silence, that stillness, that blue-tinged light, as if it was a blanket had fallen, it was as if a blanket had fallen all over the world. She leapt out of bed and yanked back her curtains. The pavements were gone, the cars turned into sleeping, hunched white dragons, trees bent low with the weight of snow. You did it, she shouted, you did it! Then she ran into her parents' room, dragging the covers off their bed, saying they had to get up now, and come outside. She put on her thickest socks, her wooliest gloves, her warmest coat, her cosiest hat, and ran out into the snow. Sylvie had to find everyone she knew. She had to tell them to get out into the snow, to lie back, to move their arms and legs, and to make themselves a snow angel. Quick, she would tell them, before the snow melts. it was going to be a very busy year. And there's all the family doing snow angels and her friends. Later that night, when Sylvie and her parents and everyone else in the town was asleep, the snow from the Snow Angel's blizzard began to thaw and melt. It slid off the trees, it dripped from gutters, it turned to slush on the roads. It vanished in patches from pavements and gardens, the lawns reappearing, the stones uncovering themselves. Snowflake by snowflake, the thick white snow disappeared back to where it had come from. But last to melt were the angels in the snow. Slowly, slowly, ever so slowly, they faded and dissolved. First their wings, then their faces, then their robes. They vanished into the air, merged with the breezes, mingled with the wind, rising up and up and up to reform in the sky, right above their makers. There they all are, drifting off up above them into the night sky. Have you ever woken suddenly in the middle of the night without knowing why? It's only your snow angel passing through, paying you a visit. Look, it's a beautiful, shiny last page there with a snow angel over here. There, that was quite a long story, but a very beautiful one. Very beautiful one. And that was called Where Snow Angels Go. Right, and more important, let's see what Molly McMulster has done. A rather brilliant colouring in of a gingerbread man. Very, very good.
And I did Kevin the Carrot.
Let's see. Excellent. What do you reckon, Kev? Good work?
I was trying to copy him.
Yeah. Excellent work. I like the little, those little marks.
Yeah.
Those ones. Yeah. No, clever work. Right, okay, that's us done for a week. We are back next weekend for our last weekend of stories. So we've got all of the Christmassy ones. We've got The Night Before Christmas. Or we've got loads of ones that sound like The Night Before Christmas. We've got The Night Before Christmas. We've got The Night Before The Night Before Christmas. And we've got The Night After Christmas. And we've got The Grinch, definitely next weekend. I don't know if we've got anything else. We might have a few other surprises in there. But those ones for sure. So have yourself a great week. It's last week of school this week. Emily finishes on Thursday. I think you've got Friday. But I know there's lots of fun things planned. And you and I have got a secret mission on Thursday night, haven't we? At school. A secret mission, but we'll tell you about that next weekend. But in the meantime, we will have our hot chocolates and we will wave you goodbye. So have a good week. See you next week. Bye.